I could easily mess that up.
I've dealt with it all the way through grade school, high school, and college. So
Oh, Jeremy's muted.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for this Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. We'll ask our Ms. Howard to call the roll tonight.
Okay, Atkins. Everybody want to unmute themselves?
Yeah.
It's like we're all muted again here.
Looks like it, yeah. See if I can. There, I think I can unmute people. Oops.
What's the problem with the mute here?
I am not sure.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Can you hear me? This is Shelley.
Okay, everybody good? All right, sorry about that little glitch. Atkins,
Here.
Hartley,
Here.
Holst,
Here.
Larson.
There we go.
There we go. Leeper.
here,
Lynch is absent. Prideaux is absent. Saul,
Here.
and our newest member, Dale Schrod.
here.
Great, thank you. Well, yes, as Karen just mentioned, we have a new member, Dale Schrod. We want to welcome you to the Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission. He's filling the most recent vacant seat, so we're back to a full strength again. So welcome, Dale. We appreciate having you.
Looking forward to it. Tonight will be a great lesson on listening and learning.
Well, we're coming to you tonight via video conference again due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For those interested in participating, there's a number of ways. You can do it by telephone, by computer or smartphone, etc. We're also on YouTube channel 15 as well as on cable channel 15 if you want to just view, but you can get on the website, etc., and get the access to this Zoom meeting if you would like to participate. We do have participants which will be allowed at the proper time on the different items. So if you're interested in an item, we encourage you to log in and join us on Zoom. Our first item would be the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings for the June 10th, 2020 meeting. And I would entertain a motion or any corrections for that from the commission.
So moved.
It's been moved. Second. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose the same sign. So we are, those are approved. Our next item of business would be any public comments, and that would be on items that are not on the agenda for tonight. I'm just going to check over here on the attendees to see if anybody would want to make a comment not on the agenda tonight. Raise their hand. If you just, and seeing none, we will continue on. We have no old business, and under new business tonight, we have a number of items. The first being a preliminary plat amendment for the Wild Horse Ridge plat. And who's going to introduce that tonight? Is that you, Karen? Is that you, Shane? Or?
Mr. Graham is going to introduce that tonight. Shane, are you muted? He can't.
Let me find him. See.
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Once we mute, we can't unmute.
Okay, I keep pushing unmute all, but for some reason, then people end up getting muted again. So I'm not sure what the technical difficulty is tonight, but we will try to power through here. I'm going to share my screen so that Shane can give the presentation. So can everybody see the screen?
Sure can.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you want to get to the first item.
Oops, we got. There we go. Not sure why it's not letting me start the PowerPoint presentation here. There are all kinds of glitches here. Okay.
Sometimes it's viewing the wrong screen, Karen. I don't know if that's the issue.
Okay. So does everybody see the?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on a second. We had this problem before. All right, here we go. Everybody see it?
Yeah, it's on full screen. You just need to get up to the beginning now.
Sorry. There we go. Why is it not? Hmm. Okay, there we go.
All right. All right. So this is a request to amend an approved preliminary plat for Wild Horse Ridge. You can see on the location map here, this is located in the Wild Horse Ridge subdivision located at the southwest corner of West 12th Street and Union Road. You can see basically the east half of the property has been developed already. The Wild Horse Ridge first, second, third, and fourth editions have already been platted, and you can see there's already been development on those. This will be, if you recall, similar to the arbors that came through several weeks back. It's the same developer looking to amend the preliminary plat, and I'll kind of go over some of those changes here. So this is the remaining area undeveloped that they're looking to amend the preliminary plat on before moving forward with final plats on future phases. So I'll move to the next one, Karen. So this is the original preliminary plat that was approved back in 2005. Just some of the things that I circled on this one that are going to be changing is that Tyler Drive, kind of in the middle here, was a cul-de-sac. That's shown on the original preliminary plat. There was a connection from Arrowhead Drive to 12th Street. So you can see that there was two accesses at the west side on the 12th Street. And then kind of down near in the middle, and then at the southwest corner of the plat, there was a couple smaller circle drives that went to several different lots there. So that was back in 2005 that the original preliminary plat was approved. If you want to go to the next one, we'll go over some of the changes now. So this is the So this is the updated preliminary plat, and again, the colored phases are the ones that are already approved and have already been beginning construction on. So we're just kind of dealing with the area in white here, which they're looking to amend. So the first thing they're looking at doing is creating some zero lot line lots at the northwest corner of the plat, along the west side of Lariat Lane and the north side of Arrowhead Drive. Again, on the original preliminary plat, these were just shown as larger single family lots. So they're proposing to do that along those two areas that are circled in red. Go to the next one. Down at the southwest corner where one of those circle drives was shown, they actually got rid of that, brought Lariat Lane down straight all the way to the south end of the plat, and then created a small cul-de-sac road, Cantor Circle, kind of near that detention basin down at the southwest corner of the plat. The street connection along to West 12th Street circle that was on the original preliminary plat was determined not to be needed. They are still showing the one access off of 12th Street at the northwest corner, but now Arrowhead Drive, instead of going straight north and connecting with 12th Street, now curves and then heads west and then connects with Lariat Lane, which then connects into West 12th Street. Kind of in this middle circle area here, before that was just showing that one street with a cul-de-sac. They are now bringing Sandstone Lane, which will connect from Arrowhead Drive to Pebblestone Place. That'll be a through street. And then they are going to create a small cul-de-sac, Cherry Creek Court, kind of in the middle there. So if you remember on the original plat, it was just one cul-de-sac street. Now they're bringing in a through street and then adding another small cul-de-sac street. So the phasing plan is attached here. Again, the first through fourth editions have already been platted. You can see the fifth edition, which is just kind of next to the first edition, is looking at adding 34 single family lots. The sixth edition, which is just to the north of that, would be adding 30 single family lots. Then you get over to the seventh edition, which is at the northwest corner, up along 12th Street. That's where they would be looking to add 14 single family lots and then 22 duplex lots. And then the eighth edition, which is just south of that, would be looking at 45 single family lots and 18 duplex lots. And then the ninth edition, which would be at the southwest corner of the plat, would be the addition of 24 single family lots. So you can see there would be a total of 40 duplex lots total. Just in the seventh and the eighth editions. So again, looking at what the developer is looking at, they're looking at several different concepts for these zero lot line duplex lots. Again, this is similar concepts that they showed with the Arbors replat. Again, either a ranch or a two-story concept with 2 or 3 bedroom variations with attached garages. And again, they're looking at this the price point of between $250,000 to $280,000 based on what they're observing with the market. And again, similar to the Arbors, if you remember, we amended the original developmental procedures agreement that was approved when the original subdivision was approved. We're looking at doing the same thing here with the Wild Horse Ridge subdivision, is kind of adding in some of these conditions into the agreement to maintain that residential character with those zero lot line dwellings. Again, looking at variation in siding color, having at least 2 different building models used, a 1-story and a 2-story, variation in design elements, minimum or maximum driveway widths, maximum garage widths, and things like that. And then the one thing that's going to differ between this one and then what you recently saw for the Arbors is under number 8. We're looking at adding some language to address some storm sewer upsizing that the developer is going to do. There is some water that kind of comes from the adjacent properties to the west and north, and we're going to work with the developer to kind of upsize that storm sewer to allow for that additional water carrying capacity. So we're just going to have some language included into that for that issue. So with that, I mean, this is the introduction for the preliminary plat. Again, staff has reviewed this and would be comfortable if the commission wanted to make a recommendation on it tonight, or if you would like to move it forward or to the next P&Z meeting for additional discussion. So I guess it'd be up to the commission whether or not to move forward or not, but staff's reviewed it and would be amenable with approving it tonight if the commission so chooses.
Great, thank you, Shane. I'm going to check here. Do we have representatives from the developer? Yep, okay, Kevin, I'm going to get you turned on here. Kevin, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Well, I just want to quickly just say thank you, let you know if there are any calls. I'm here to answer questions. Really just from our building standpoint, theory here is no different than what we're seeing in Wild Horse right now for current single family construction and what you see in the arbors. And then as Shane mentioned, carrying that same theory of the condos, bringing them into that area as well, giving us two sides of towns, different school districts, family opportunities, to serve those same price points. Just a little background on us coming back through, after this area sat the first edition after 08, I would say those larger lots struggled a little bit. So in about 12 or 13, we started conversations with Dennis, met with the city, went through a plat that is what you're seeing here today, and started construction. And then when we hit the third edition, because there were some lot changes in sizes that maybe didn't get presented to the first edition owners, we had conversations with the city and decided to bring that plat full circle back through P&Z so that all the community, Wild Horse, anyone around in neighboring subdivisions would know what's happening based on current changes. So that brings us to today. Really in it, the only major change is adding the condos. If you recall from that first original plat from Dennis Weichers, there were condos on Rocky Ridge backing up to Union. We made those lots 76-foot single family homes, as we felt that was a better presentation to the first edition homeowners, with us taking over and having a product or price point a little different from what first edition was, and taking those condos out and finding a way to move them somewhere for future build away from that first edition. So we felt moving them to the opposite corner over there in the northwest would be its best placement. We've got multiple additions before we ever get there, so there will be multiple phasing points where the community will continue to see the possibility of those duplexes, hopefully taking all conversations away. So unless there's any other questions, I appreciate your time tonight, and I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Is there any questions, commissioners, for the owners rep in the pitch row? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anybody else who would like to make a comment. And I do see Emily Chase. I'm going to try to allow you in here. Emily, are you there? Oops.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
So if you're looking at the plat map, I am an owner on the north side of 12th Street across from the development. Just have a few concerns, and I know these plats have been around for a while and changing in scope, so I appreciate being able to take a look at where they've gone to. But I wanted to clarify, first off, there's been discussion of those north and west lots. I've heard both duplex and condo being referred to. Could I get some clarification on whether or not those are duplexes or condos? I know they're condo duplexes, but in terms of, is it a rental or a condo that would be in ownership?
Kevin, are you, oops. Let me see if I can get.
You there?
Yeah, Kevin, you should be unmuted now.
Yeah,
there's
zero lot line duplexes. They're there meant to be single family units. We don't have restrictions in our covenants that they cannot be rented, but at a 250 to 280 price point, and us continuing to build single family homes in that area until the last lot is done, it's not our intent to sell to investors. So if somebody would take a unit on, fall on hard times, move out of the area, need to rent that unit, to get them by, they would have the ability to do that. But a rental community or product is not the intent of that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. And then second question before comments, has a traffic study been done? I have some pretty serious concerns. I would have 3 small children once I build on my property at that location, and you've got a significant amount of traffic that's exiting on the northwest side of that addition, and particularly where you have a higher density over there. I believe originally there were 3 exits proposed onto 12th Street, and now we're down to 1. Could you speak to that?
That might be a question for Kevin. I'm not privy to some of those previous discussions. I do know, yeah, you're right. The original preliminary plat did show, I think it's Rocky Ridge Road going north out of the second edition, but that was removed. And then there, like I said, when I mentioned earlier, there was a second access that on the West 12th Street that was removed, and now Arrowhead Drive just curves to the west. I guess I'm not sure. Kevin, if you remember the discussions with the engineering department, obviously our engineering department would have reviewed that and has in same with this plat, has been okay with the 1 access. I don't know if Kevin, you can speak to any of those previous discussions with the engineering department on that.
There weren't. You hear me okay? Sorry.
Yeah, you're unmuted now, I think.
Well, I mean, from a traffic standpoint, there weren't any concerns. As we went through planning and engineering, there was that request just from our belief was inner subdivision traffic exiting out to 12th. That question of trying to make that second one fit where it's currently a detention right now as Arrowhead curves. Our feeling has always been, if you look at where the high school is going, where a lot of our shopping, where a lot of our traffic is, in all honesty, we see Wild Horse Drive and Sonoma continuing to be that host of most of the traffic, if you would, going in and out. I'm sure you will have the northwest corner owners that will go out of there. But to us, a second exit just meant more traffic driving up there. But West 12th Street really not being an artery like Union. So as soon as you can get to Union, given where you're going, that's the point you're going to use.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I would just say I feel like 12th is already an artery to exit town. It's there's actually fairly significant traffic, even though it's unpaved at this point in time. Which brings me to my next question, and I didn't see it in this paperwork this time, but back on other plat drawings, there was also a requirement that the developer, when these were developed, finish 12th Street. And I apologize if this has been addressed elsewhere, but again, I didn't see that in this paperwork. Can anybody speak to that?
I can.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, that part of the agreement, and that's as we've been looking at the development, how to make this work. Part of the agreement is we took over that commitment from Dennis. So every lot in the subdivision that gets platted, with the submission and final acceptance of the plat, we pay a fee towards the development of that street. And then if the city needs it before we get there or we get there, one of the two takes care of it, but it's coming from the cost of the development. So that street will be paved to our west boundary as we move along there.
Very good.
Yeah, and I mentioned that in the staff report as well. They've already made several payments based on the last several final plats. I think there's a per fee per development. So they've already put some money into an escrow account over their last couple additions into that. So, and they'll look to continue that as they keep platting the next phases.
Okay.
So what then would be the estimated time for completion of that? Will we have homes built already on those northerly lots or in that northwest addition? in 7th or 8th before that's paved?
I don't know the timing. Do you know, Karen, on that, the timing of that?
Shane, would it be the phase? It would be the phasing of the subdivision there, right? The connection to 12th Street would be during. Okay, bring up the plat here again.
They're showing it on the 7th edition.
Yeah.
Karen, I can answer our best timing if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Our best timing would be by the time we would present an exit to the north. So by the time that Lariat Lane hits 12th Street, it's my assumption, just in understanding or my interpretation of our conversations with the city, is by the time anybody could exit north onto 12th Street, that street would be ready, paved, and completed. So if worst case scenario, I guess we'd be saying, as we're developing the 7th edition and getting ready to pave 7th, we would likely be paving 12th Street as well.
Thank you. Well,
But that time frame's not known for right now, right, Kevin? I mean, just based on how the 5th and 6th edition goes.
Correct. We envision a 1.5 to 2 year per plat. So that you could be looking at 6 years from now by the time we get to 7th, or 4 years from now by the time we start the development of 7th.
Thank you. My only other general comment, I do appreciate the variation in the condos, the duplexes, the efforts that have been taken there, but I do have concern over the width of those lots. I think they're pretty small for dual family homes, and especially with the 0 lot lines on top of that. So that ends my comments and questions. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Emily. Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Please raise your hand on the Zoom if you can. I'll look for, I do not see anybody else looking to comment, so I am going to close this to the public and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Potential motion.
I just wanted to clarify something that came up. If I remember right, the language was the narrow lot size on top of being 0 lot line, and those narrower lot lines, just to clarify, those 0 lot line homes would be straddling those lines every other.
Right, correct, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for Mrs. Chase, I think it was.
Yeah.
Right, so there's 1 unit per lot.
Right.
Leanne, I think you're unmuted if you had a comment.
Yes, I have a question about stormwater retention. I know that we had quite an issue on the platting to the east of this property, which is the New Aldea and some of that other. And I'm just concerned, is that pond or a detention pond there, is that enough for all of this water and stormwater retention?
Yes, I'm going back. So the plat shows 2 small stormwater detention areas, one along West 12th Street, and then one along the very western edge of the property. And then it all goes down to where the first edition is. There's a big giant basin in the kind of at the south end within the first edition that's meant to get the stormwater from this entire area. So our engineering department hasn't noted any concerns about the capacity of that to hold for this entire subdivision.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
I have a question, Marty. This is really for staff. We're really pushing the exit to 12th Street down the road to phase 7 addition. Are we comfortable that phase 1 through 6, the 2 discharges to Union, are sufficient to support those?
I mean, as far as I know, the engineering hasn't indicated any concerns. I mean, yeah, going with the 5th and 6th editions prior to getting to the 7th edition, yeah, you'd have your 2 exits onto Union Road. So, I mean, as far as the traffic circulation and the ingress and egress out onto Union Road, the engineering department hasn't indicated any concerns about that.
I didn't know if there were distance requirements. You know, the north side of 6th edition gets pretty far away, but maybe it's okay.
Any other thoughts or comments, commissioners? So what we have before us tonight is a preliminary plat. Now, normally we would look at this one meeting and then bring it back for a second meeting. But what Shane is telling us from the city standpoint, if we feel it's straightforward enough and want to take an action on it tonight, they have made their recommendation, would be supportive of that, or we can bring it back for a second meeting for the potential for additional comment and input from the public if we feel that's beneficial. So as you think about that,
Yes.
how to move forward.
I would ask Kevin a question about, you know, ideally we would have some more time for the public to see this out there, but are there any time constraints on this, Kevin?
We get Kevin unmuted. You should be open.
I mean, there's no, on our part, other than our conversations with the city. I know Karen and Shane would probably agree. We've been talking about it and trying to get this moved forward for so long. You know, we'd like to get it through and past all of us. But I mean, we have the time if you feel you need to let it sit for a couple weeks. We did different than one thing I would note that we did differently than we have in the past. I had, you know, this is one subdivision where we've turned the HOA over to the homeowners already. They reached out to me. They've got an upcoming yearly annual meeting. I presented the plat to the whole HOA, the homeowners association already. So feel pretty positive that I haven't taken a call, and I think Shane only took a couple that were more development and opportunity and drainage questions. So it's up to you. I feel comfortable where we're at, but if you'd like to wait, I don't have any reason to say I'd like to go tonight.
If we
I have
don't
a
have
question.
any homework go ahead, Leanne.
I have a question. Would it be, when will we be going back to regular public meetings? You know, it would be nice if the public had the opportunity, if they needed to come forward with this and ask questions. And it's tough on Zoom. As you can see, we have all these issues with Zoom and hooking up and muting and whatever. So it might be nice to wait another 2 weeks.
I can't
say something similar. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I can't guarantee that the next meetings will be in person. I know there's been some discussion. I think they're talking about extending the Zoom meetings into July. So you'll just have to stay tuned on that particular question.
Well, what I was about to say is that I would agree with the idea that under normal circumstances, if a project seems pretty straightforward, and especially if the developer or the staff doesn't have any, I guess, homework to report back with, I don't see any reason to kick something down the road another 2 weeks. If it's straightforward enough, I think we should go into approval. But to what Leanne said, and that's what I was going to finish with, was that that these Zoom meetings are a little tricky, and I don't think we've had the attendance and the attention that we would in City Hall. So I think that's a great idea once we get back to regular meetings. But I would say for right now, while we're in this Zoom condition, that it would make sense to just give a little bit more time.
That seems like the prudent approach to me also.
I would move then that we bring it forward at the next council or at the next planning and zoning meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, well, all in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. So we'll carry that on to our next meeting and see it in a couple weeks. All right, thank you, everybody. Now, our next item of business is a revised Highway 1 site plan review for the Panther Travel Center. And this item, I have a conflict of interest on, and so I am going to turn the chair over to Vice Chair Leeper so he can run the discussion on this one, and I will be abstaining from any voting or discussion on this item.
Thank you, Marty. We'll be reviewing and making a recommendation to City Council on this item tonight. So I'm not sure who is doing the presentation. Karen?
Mr. Graham's going to do the presentation on this case as well.
Okay, so this is located at 1525 West Ridgeway Avenue. It's lot 2 of Gateway Park Business Center. There's 2 buildings on this site, a DQ Grill and Chill, which is now open, and the Panther Travel Center, which is a gas station, and it'll have a small restaurant and auto service center, is currently under construction. You can see it's at the northeast corner of Hudson Road and West Ridgeway Avenue, just south of the recently constructed Holiday Inn Hotel. So I'm just going to go back. If you remember, the P&Z Commission approved the original site plan back in the summer of 2019. This is just the overall site plan. You can see the DQ Grill and Chill restaurants at the west end. The convenience store with the auto service center is kind of on the east end with the gas canopy right in the middle there. There's 2 main entrances to the site. The main entrance is off of Cyber Lane, which connects to Ridgeway Avenue. And then there's a secondary entrance through an easement from the Holiday Inn Hotel site. There is no direct access from Ridgeway Avenue or Hudson Road. So, and then along the north side of this property is where the main drive aisle is. When you come in off of the main entrance off of Cyber Lane, you would use that main drive aisle to get either to the gas station component or over to the restaurant. Go to the next slide. So back with the original approval in 2019, the area highlighted here just north of the gas canopy, there was shown a landscape island with trees and green space. The landscaping plan showed 2 honey locust overstory trees and almost a little over 2,100 square feet of open space within that landscape island. And so what the developer is asking for today is for a revision to the site plan, basically to reduce the size of that approved landscape island. The approved island had a width of 53 foot 7 inches and a depth of 36 and a half feet. What they would like to do is reduce that to a size of 40 feet wide by 7 feet in depth. And you can see that on the image here. The area with blue highlighting is what the size they're proposing it. You can see the black oval there is the original size, and they've kind of dimensioned out what those sizes are. What they're asking, why they're asking for this is they're asking for an increase between the distance between the fuel pumps and that curb. As of right now with the approved plan, it's about 16 feet from the gas pump to the curb of that approved island. And what they would like to do is increase that to increase it by 30 feet 1 inch to a total of 46 feet 1 inch. They've indicated that they would like that for movement between the gas pump and the curb area. Also, they indicated that they would like this area for additional large vehicle parking, such as buses and maybe large trucks with trailers. So they've submitted a revised landscaping plan. Again, they're removing those 2 overstory trees, and we use a point system for our landscaping requirements. So those trees were a total of 160 landscape points, 80 points each. And then they're going to remove approximately 1,857 square feet of open space. And they would like to replace those 2 trees with 6 hydrangeas. Those are only at 60 points because those are worth 10 points each. So there would be a net loss of 100 landscaping points on the entire site per the approved plan. And then based on the reduction of that island, you're looking at a reduction in about 1% of the open space of the total area from 29.9 to 28.9 of the entire site. So, and you'll know in the staff report, staff's reviewed this request, and we will recommend denial of the request as submitted. As you can see in the staff report, I think staff has some concerns as it relates to the safe vehicular movement and access on the site, and also removing or reducing by a lot the one remaining kind of area of green space that's central to the site. Also, you're eliminating the overstory trees and replacing with smaller shrubs. Again, one of the things that they were pointing to was the need for bus parking, larger vehicle parking. You know, there is area to the east of the building, kind of over in that east of the auto center, where if there was buses that came and dropped off, say students or something to visit the restaurant or the gas station, they could always drop them off in front and find a place to park. That's not very uncommon that you see buses drop kids off and then go find a place to park kind of away from the building. So again, there's quite a bit of paving there already. The drive aisles on each side of the gas canopy, kind of in front of the gas station, and on the other side of the gas canopy, are already about over 30 to 40 feet in width, which is larger than a typical two-way street. So we feel that there's enough adequate space there for turning movements, things like that. One of the things we did discuss with the applicant would be reducing that island by 10 feet. So we had indicated to them that we would administratively approve a reduction by 10 feet, which would then give you 26.5 feet between the gas canopy and that curb, which again would give you the ability to have two-way traffic between the curb and the gas can or the gas pump. As typical 24-foot is your typical two-way width for a drive aisle. So staff did indicate that a reduction of 10 feet would be acceptable. However, they wanted to go with the larger number. And so based on that, we deemed that to be a major change to the site plan then and require P&Z review with city council approval. So that's staff's recommendation on the proposal as submitted. However, we would have be recommending approval of a reduction of up to 10 feet to give them that additional room to allow vehicles to kind of get through that area.
All right, thank you, Shane. Is there anyone from the applicant that would like to speak to the issue? Anyone? Hearing none. Anyone from the public?
Now, we had some raised hands there, Brad.
Did we?
Yes.
Not seeing that on my end, Karen.
Okay, let's see. We have Marty Rouse and Brad Best. They're raising their hand. Let's see. I've got.
There's a commissioner with his hand raised as well.
So Marty and Brad, can you?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, this is Brad Best, Peters Construction general contractor on the project. I'm here with Marty Rouse, who kind of led the development. I think we both might comment here quickly, but the reason for our request is basically like the report kind of outlined is maneuverability of the sites are a big concern. The second one is large vehicle parking related to the maneuverability piece, and then safety from a different component related to traffic flow and able to safely get in and out of that parking lot. I'll let Marty speak to an example here in a minute, but we've been under construction out there since last fall with Dairy Queen, and that drive lane is very, very busy. That Dairy Queen has done very well from a drive-through traffic standpoint. We really feel it's important to get places to get buses off that drive. The area designed to the east is designed for an auto shop, not necessarily for truck parking. That's a long way from the entrance to the C-store for a bunch of kids to be running around. We think we need to get buses or larger vehicles having a place to get close to the front door of the C-store, most importantly. Secondly, the vehicle parking, Marty will speak about that. But before he does, maybe I'll also talk about one thing I want to mention is we are greatly in excess of any green space or open space requirements on the site. The reduction is only 1% that we're requesting. So I want to point that out. And maybe Marty, if you want to speak to the safety side based on a past example he's been a part of on this.
Our request stems from an incident that occurred at the Casey's in Grundy Center. I was a first responder on that call when a young man was struck and killed by a patron that was trying to leave the site. And it all boiled down to not enough room to maneuver in the lot. I don't want to see any repeats of that. I would absolutely hate to see anyone killed because of lack of maneuverability. One of my big concerns is that the buses are most likely to just stop on that main, what I'll call a street along the north side, and unload their passengers from there. We want to give them as much chance to get off of that street and be able to park safely and still leave enough room to get in and out of the parking lot. So that is the driving force of this whole request, is the safety of our patrons and the ease of getting in and out of there without risking anyone's health. The additional size, I believe, could potentially even make room for 2 buses as opposed to just 1 if we took the 10 feet. And buses don't turn on a dime, so they do need a little bit of turning radius in there to get in and out. So we would greatly appreciate approval of our request as submitted for us for the safety aspect.
All right, any other comments from the applicant?
No, we're open for any questions if you have any for us.
Do commissioners have any questions for the applicants? All right, any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for questions and comments.
I would agree with the developer on needing that extra space. So.
As I was looking at, even before the safety thing came up, I was from just using facilities like this. My thinking was just having an ability to pass someone at the pump coming into that area, or to go around to get to the right side of their tank or whatever. It seems like the previous design is almost bringing unnecessary congestion to it. And then if you bring the safety factor into the equation, I honestly feel like it's a no-brainer. As far as the landscaping goes, while it's a cut, however big or small, it's not really to anywhere along the perimeter. And so to passersby, I don't think that it has an effect whatsoever. Once you're within the campus, if you will, I don't think it'll feel like anything's missing there.
I guess staff has a comment about the safety issue, and I don't know Shane's staff report. I just would like to note for the commission that there are really, as far as maneuvering on the site, the drive aisles, the aisles for the parking area are almost 40 feet wide. And so a typical single family street, or a single street in the city, is 31 feet wide. So there's plenty of room for buses and large vehicles to turn into, just like you would turn on a city street. There's plenty of room for vehicles to turn into this private site here from that main drive into the site. So our concern is also a safety concern when staff reviewed this, that when you have sort of undefined aisles and drives, when they're so wide and there's so much pavement, drivers and people that are walking, there can be a lot of undefined movement and unexpected movements by those vehicles when there's such undefined drives and aisles. These vastly exceed the requirements for the maneuverability of the site. So that is why staff was recommending against this. Now we are recommending to increase the size so that people can pass in both directions next to the pumps, we think that is a reasonable request.
I would move to approve as presented and asked for by the developer.
We have a second.
I'll second. Shelley.
Any other discussion? All
Just
right.
a kind of a question, I guess. If the idea of the very narrow island is to encourage possibly bus parking there, would it not make sense to have some parallel parking bays striped along there to make it to try and distract traffic from parking along that that northerly lane, I guess you'd call it? This is just a question.
Yeah, I think we can add striping to help delineate where we want these vehicles to park, and some proper signage on that island as well.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're doing voice votes. Is that right, Karen?
Yes. And call the roll. Everybody ready? Atkins,
Aye.
Hartley. He's saying
I
aye.
think that's an aye.
He seems muted. Yep. Holst. Oh, he's recused
Steve.
himself. Larson,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Lynch, or sorry, Saul.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, I'll hand it back to you, Marty.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Our next item of business is a final plat for Pheasant Hollow 7th edition. And who's introducing that tonight?
I'll be introducing that.
All right, Chris, you're on.
Okay. Okay, so the Pheasant Hollow 7th edition final plat is located in the neighborhood south of First Street and east of Union, and is surrounded by several other established neighborhoods. It continues Apollo Street to the west and brings it to a cul-de-sac in the northern part of the project area. Next slide. Okay. Just for a little bit of history, this was part of a larger RP zone planned residence plan that was approved in 2014. This particular part of the plan was included in the 6th edition as an outlot reserved for future development. And the preliminary plat for the Pheasant Hollow 7th edition was approved in August of 2019, so a little under a year back. The final plat is pretty straightforward. It is consistent with the preliminary plat and will create 18 lots on 14.2 acres. All homes would be single-family dwellings on lots ranging between 13,000 square feet and 41,000 square feet. Final approval of this plat will legally create these lots so they can begin to be conveyed or sold. Just for a little bit of, footwork on our part, I did visit the site with Matt Tolan, the city engineer assigned to this case. There still remains work to be done as per the preliminary plat and the agreed public improvements. The developer intends to bond for the remaining improvements, which bond we require prior to final approval by the city council. Stormwater management is a big part of these improvements, which has drawn some phone calls and public questions here at City Hall. I can offer a little bit of insight into that. There are 2 metered detention ponds to which all on-site stormwater will be directed. Those detention ponds would then release into a stream at a metered rate. The stream runs northward along the east side of the plat, represented by tract C on the plat. So, with that being said, we we've reviewed this and we recommend approval of the final plat based on this, the stipulations in the staff report.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Check, see who we have. Do we have anybody representing the developer that would like to make comment? Let's see, I've got Steve Trosky. I'm going to get you unmuted here. Steve, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. I don't really have much to add from Chris's summary, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. It's been great working with the city and the engineering department to get this site figured out. So I know the developer is really anxious to get going, and he's excited that we've got it this far. So happy to help in any way I can.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone, our participants who would like to make a comment on this from the public? Please raise your hand. Okay. Jim Koloff, try to get you in here. You there, Jim?
I am.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, I'm a neighboring landowner. We own a house on the corner of Apollo and Shelley Lane, and I think the developer's done a nice job of with the lot development and the layout. I just have one. I guess I wanted to confirm one thing with the developer, and then just one minor concern. The preliminary plat showed the sidewalk continuing on through our property. It's a undevelopable lot or tract behind our home, and just wanted to verify that since that is property owned by us but developed by the developer, that they will complete that sidewalk through our property and up until the existing sidewalk. So I don't know if they can speak on that. It's on the preliminary plat, so I just wanted to confirm that that sidewalk would be completed through our property to the existing sidewalk.
Is there anybody that can confirm that?
Chris, do you have a comment about that?
The very least I could say is that's something that we would require of them because it's on the preliminary plat. So that is part of the either completed improvements or bonded improvements that will ensure will be done.
It hasn't taken out the requirements then.
Correct.
Okay. And then the only very minor concern is we have some trees on our property that are outside of the easement area where the sidewalk will be built, but they're close. And I just want to, I guess I can meet with the developer maybe, but I just want to make sure that they're not taken down or disturbed in any way while they do complete that sidewalk. Again, it's not a huge thing, but just there's some trees that we'd like to make sure aren't disturbed when they do that work.
Perhaps Mr. Trosky could speak to that.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes, you're on, Steve.
So I know that the developers were interested in this piece of property specifically because of the trees, and they want to keep as many trees as possible. It's not a situation where they want to go in and clear them out to flatten the land. And so what I can do is I can just pass that comment along to the developer and to the contractors when they go out there, just to make sure that everyone's aware of the concern and the need to keep those trees there. But I think for that, I can just pass along the concern, and then, if you want to be present or something when they go out there and start, I'm happy to pass that along. But it's not their intent to take down any extra trees anywhere because that's what's attractive about the site to them.
Yeah, and I think they've done a nice job of that and tried to maintain that. So I do appreciate that, but I would like to, if you could pass that along, that if they could, if they wouldn't mind touching base with us just to make sure that one tree in particular isn't disturbed. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate if I ask for Jim's phone number? Could someone send him my email that we could get connected?
Steve, I will get Jim's phone number and pass it on to you.
Thank you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Anyone else would like to comment on this one? Please raise a hand on the Zoom here. I'm not seeing anybody looking at comment. Also, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion or a motion.
I have a question. He said that the water is going to dump into a stream on the north and go north. Is that the same stream that runs over underneath First Street and into that Lakeshore development?
The Lakeshore development.
The one we had quite a bit of discussion on when we had another plat come back for us on the end of Lakeshore Drive. And we have that pond that fills up and all that problem.
Let's see.
Are you talking about way far to the north, Leanne?
Yeah, remember all that water was coming down and across and into that pond. Marty, I think Marty Holst, you're familiar with that.
Yeah, it's right behind the old Higbee Hardware building on First Street.
Yeah. So I guess my concern is the detention plan sufficient? Because I know they continually have problems with that and silt filling in and whatever. So I guess my question is this plat sufficiently taking care of that water?
Yeah.
So what would be happening here is right now it's an uncontrolled flow into that stream. With the development of this property, they would be putting in the stormwater detention, which would actually improve the stormwater management on this site and would convey the water to those stormwater ponds and would release it at a measured rate into the stream. Of course, that stream all carries all kinds of water from everything around it. But the amount of water will be controlled into that stream. So that's what they're required to do to meet the stormwater requirements. And it should actually be an improvement over the existing situation.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Leanne, I mean, that water will go to that pond. That's that's the direction it's heading.
Yep.
I'm gonna get one of the screwdriver that can fit this in this head, so I can take apart a hard drive without destroying it.
Are there other discussion or a motion on this by commission?
I would move to approve.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second.
Just because they're
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, then we'll ask Karen to take the roll call.
Atkins?
Aye.
Hartley? Aye. Holst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Leeper?
Aye.
Saul?
Aye.
What did they vote on?
Did you get Dale?
Dale? Aye. And why are these people muted?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think we can unmute once we
How
mute.
did you open tonight? Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Not sure where our extra channel's coming from, but. All right, so that item will move forward. Do you know what the schedule is on that, Karen?
This will move forward to the next city council meeting.
Next city council meeting. Okay, thank you. Let's see, our next item of business, we actually have 3 items of business all related to the same property. And the first of those is a preliminary plat for the Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church Edition. And who is introducing that tonight?
I'll introduce this item.
Great, thank you, Karen.
Okay. This is a location map for the church. This is Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church. They own the property that's fronting on Oster Parkway and also has access to Green Creek Road in the Pinnacle Prairie subdivision. This is a preliminary plat. The existing church is located on Lot 1 of Southern Pines First Edition. You can see here on the map here shown on the screen. The church is in one subdivision. It has access to both streets, Green Creek Road and Oster Parkway. They happen to own the parcel that is Tract C, which is in Southern Pines Second Edition. That's what gives them access to Green Creek Road. In 2018, the church acquired additional parcel to the east through a plat of survey, and this was really a temporary measure to expedite that sale. The city agreed to sign off on that auditor's plat, where we would typically have required a subdivision process, but we agreed to do that to expedite the sale of the property to the church. But one of the conditions of that, the city signing off on that auditor's plat, was that prior to further development, the land must be brought in for platting. So at this point in time, the church wants to expand their parking lot onto that new parcel, and so that is why they're before us today to do that platting. Here we can see the preliminary plat that is proposed. The proposal is to merge all of the properties that the church owns into one lot and to form a one-lot subdivision then. The subdivision will be 5.91 acres. It'll have frontage again on those two roads. All the existing easements on the site for utilities, storm, sewer, landscaping, and drainage will remain on the site. From those previous subdivisions, all those easements will remain. Just a little bit of background here. This is located in a mixed-use zoning district, and the church is part of the Pinnacle Prairie Master Plan. It's located in what the developer has called the Villages portion of the Pinnacle Prairie area. The Villages is largely residential in nature, but does include the church property, several large institutional uses in the area, as long as with a future proposed park and some stormwater management areas. The subdivision does meet the standards in the mixed-use zone. There's not a lot of lot size standards in the mixed-use zone. As you know, there's a lot of flexibility with that zoning district. We will be reviewing the site plan on a subsequent item here on your agenda, so I won't go into that, but tonight with the preliminary plat. Just to look a little bit at the stormwater management, one of the things is there is a 30-foot drainage easement that runs north and south. Here's a kind of blown up area of the plat. You can see that that tract C that goes up to Green Creek Road. There's about 30-foot easement there that's for stormwater management right now. There is also, with this plat, we required them to come to an agreement with the adjacent property owner, and they've come to an easement agreement for an offsite easement that will convey the water from this subdivision then through this drainage easement into what is a temporary basin located to the south. Here you can see a little bit more what's going on with the water. On this site, you can see south of the church there, that kind of basin area. That's really a temporary basin. For right now, all this land is undeveloped, and you can kind of see the waterways and the drainage ways on the site. And you can see how the church property does drain toward that large temporary basin. On the insert on your screen on the upper corner to the right, you can see that master plan and see how the long-term plans for this whole area as it develops then would be to adjust that stormwater management plan so that there's a large basin further to the east. And that would be coming in the future then as more land is platted in the future. So we just wanted to note that, and we noted it in our staff report. But the stormwater management has been reviewed by staff and the engineering staff, and it meets the city's requirements. With this easement to convey the water from the edge of their plat to that temporary basin. So with that, city staff recommends approval of case number preliminary plat 19012, a preliminary plat of Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church edition with the following stipulations. Any comments that the Planning and Zoning Commission has tonight and conformance with all of the staff recommendations and technical requirements. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you, Karen. And look over here at our attendees. Is there anyone from the church who would like to comment online? If so, raise your hand. Here we go. Tim, I'm going to try to get you in here in a second. Tim, are you there? Oops, let me try again.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Yes, I got you. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to Karen's comments, but again, here to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Anyone else online here who would like to chime in? I'm seeing none. I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion or a motion and/or a motion.
I would move to approve.
It's been moved to
Second.
approve. And there's a second. Is there any discussion?
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Who was the second?
Leaper.
Leaper. Looks like a fairly straightforward plat to me, so.
Yeah, pretty well thought out.
Yep. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and Karen, have you take a roll call vote.
Atkins,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Holst,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Saul,
Aye.
Schrod. He's waving aye.
All right, so that carries, and we will move on then to our next item, related item, which is the final plat for the same Emmanuel Lutheran, Evangelical Lutheran Church edition. So Karen, I will turn that back to you.
Okay. This is the final plat of the preliminary plat that you just saw. It does just create one lot. You can see that here on your screen. We find that the final plat is consistent with the preliminary plat we just reviewed. So staff recommends approval of this case of final plat of this church edition with the following stipulations: that the preliminary plat of the church edition has been approved. And prior to placing this item on the council agenda, all plat documents and legal papers must be in order and submitted in hard copy form with original signatures as applicable. I believe that they do have all their legal papers in, so it should be able to go forward to the council upon recommendation of the commission.
Great. Thank you, Karen. I don't know if there is any additional comment wanted to be made by Tim regarding that, or otherwise I'll bring it back to the commission for a motion or discussion.
I think Tim has his hand raised.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't think I ever lowered it.
Yeah.
Nothing to add other than, again, like Karen stated, this is really just to simplify the church's parcels. It combines all three into one, so no other change per se.
Right. I think it seems pretty straightforward.
I would move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Karen, will you call the roll call vote?
Atkins,
Aye.
Hartley,
Aye.
Holst,
Aye.
Larson,
Aye.
Leeper,
Aye.
Saul,
Aye.
Schrod. Giving a thumbs up on that. All right.
All right, so that motion carries. Then we're on to the final item of business tonight, which is a related MU site plan for the Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church. And Karen, you're back on.
Okay, here we are with the same site again. Once again, this is in the mixed use district. The site plan for the existing church was approved in July of 2013. So whenever there's a significant change to an existing site in the mixed use zone, review is required by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. So just focusing in on, because this is just an amendment to their existing site plan, the staff report and my report tonight will just be focusing in on those items that are applicable to the changes that they're proposing. They're just planning to add extended their parking lot onto that new portion of their property. They're adding 64 new parking spaces proposed, and they're going to change some of their stormwater management plan to adjust that to accommodate that new parking lot. With regard to parking, they met all the minimum number of spaces in the original site plan, so there's no need to review that with this site plan. There is a minimum setback requirement for parking lots of 20 feet from the property boundaries. This one is almost 40 feet at its closest point to the property lot line, so it meets those requirements. With regard to open green space requirements, the mixed use district requires that 10% of the site area remain as open green space. This entire site is 257,499 square feet. The area covered by buildings, parking, and other paved areas is about 35% of the site, which leaves the remainder of the site into open green space is about 65% of the site. So that requirement is met. Moving on to the landscaping tree coverage requirements. For street tree requirements, there's landscaping required that equals 4 trees, basically, street tree requirements, and the tree requirements were met with the original site plan. So no new street frontage is added, so no additional street tree are required with this site plan. With regard to the parking area, landscaping requirements, 1 tree is required for every 15 parking stalls. There are 64 new parking stalls proposed, so there's a minimum of 4 overstory trees that are required. And as you can see, the landscaping plan is shown on the screen here. It shows 11 overstory trees that are going to be planted around that parking lot. The landscape screening is also required around the perimeter of a parking lot here. And as you can see, the shrubs and additional landscaping is proposed around the perimeter of that parking lot. So the parking lot landscaping and tree requirements are met. With regard to the general site landscaping requirements in the mixed use zone, it requires a ratio of 0.02 landscaping points per square foot of total development site area. So for this size of the site, 5,150 landscaping points are required. Landscaping plan is planned with the original site plan satisfied 3,100 of those points with the original church development. So if you subtract out the 4 trees required for the parking lot coverage, the site plan that was submitted with the staff report equaled 1,020 or 1,030 points. And so it is short about 1,000 points with that staff report. I did talk to the developer and to the church, and they agreed to add some additional trees on the north side of the lot. What's shown here is a revised landscaping plan that wasn't in your packet. It's been revised to show 11 additional trees along that north property line. That's a pretty good location for the trees. It will help kind of buffer views of the parking lot from the neighbors to the north. Staff think that's a good improvement to the landscaping plan. That's going to equal 880 points for those trees, which still leaves a small shortfall in the landscaping points. Now, on these large site plans in the mixed use zone, there is discretion for the Planning and Zoning Commission to give credit for up to 10% of the required landscaping points to be satisfied with the open green space. You can give that at a ratio of 1 point for each 500 square feet of green space that they're providing. So they have the latitude here to grant, to give credit up to 334 points. Given the fact that such a large area of the site is going to remain as green space, staff recommends approval of giving credit for that open space requirement to satisfy the remaining landscaping points. If they were to add another couple trees, that would also satisfy the landscaping points. But staff is open to either option at this point. With regard to stormwater management, as described in the plat, there is a 30-foot drainage easement that runs north-south through the site. You can see a little bit more detail than what you saw on the plat documents. There's that off-site easement. You can see that how that water runs through the site here. You can see the site grading is proposed. And you can see that off-site easement as that water flows down to the south to that temporary basin. To regain some valuable green space on the site, the church has opted to install an underground detention system to replace an existing basin that's shown in the light green on the screen here. And then they'll create a new basin just south of the new parking lot. The water from the parking lot and surrounding lot area to the east will be directed to this new basin, and it will outlet to, and also the underground storage will outlet into that drainage easement that runs to the south. Our engineering staff have reviewed the stormwater management plan and find that it meets all the city's requirements. So with that, staff recommends approval of the site plan for the church, subject to some stipulations, any comments or directions specified by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And of course, the plats all have to be approved prior to the approval of the site plan. And then any additional landscaping required by the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the commission can give credit because of the open space on the site. And then conformance to all city staff recommendations and technical requirements. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Karen? Well, go ahead.
Mr. Strad. No, Marty, you're gonna have to unmute.
Yeah, let me find what's going on here. It's not letting me do it.
Yeah, I did it. Thank you. Okay. I just have a question about parking lots. Is there any stipulations in zoning about permeable parking lots where they have some absorption of all the water pass through? I mean, with all the new parking lots and everything, I don't know if there's any city ordinances or requirements that require parking lots to have permeable surfaces. Just a question.
So we don't have a requirement for that. We have had some parking lots built, particularly in the more urban areas when there's not much site area to build detention basins. But usually with those kind of cases, you're going to need something underground underneath those permeable pavers to collect that water anyway. So it would be in sense similar to the underground system here they have proposed. But you're right, it's not permeable pavers that are proposed in the parking lot. And I don't know if the developer has any other comment to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tim, if you're there, if you want to make any comment, you sure can.
Yep. So really it comes down to maintenance. You know, folks that are used to maintaining permeable pavements and have large quantities of it, it's easy enough for them to do. But when you're talking about a church that, you know, probably relies on their patrons and community members to do that maintenance, you get into some difficult maintenance requirements for permeable pavements. So we would probably typically not recommend that for this particular application. The underground storage, however, is, I would say, a very similar option to the permeable pavement as far as a way to gain back that space on the site. The church had very specific reasonings for doing that on this project. They have a pre-K program at the church, and that's their green space. So right now, I don't know if you've been out there, but they had some orange safety fencing around their existing detention basin. They just felt it was a hazard to young children as they're playing outside. So that was kind of the driving force behind getting most of that underground.
Thank you, Tim. Well, commissioners, any questions or motion?
I would recommend approval with giving them credit for the open space.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
About the credit, and just, this might just be a question or a thought with regard to any kind of future precedent. And I guess what I'm getting at is just a clarification that the reason for the exception or diverting to that discretionary minimum is because of the size of the space. And I guess in any other context, if we're talking about a much larger site that's not fully utilized, that would generally be the same attitude, regardless of the type of project in the past or future.
Yeah, and I think if the church were to come back again for, they wanted to develop more of their site there, then we would review it again and make sure that all these requirements are being met.
Okay. That makes sense.
Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded, so we've seen no further discussion. We'll go ahead and have Karen take the roll call vote again.
Atkins?
Aye.
Hartley?
Aye.
Holst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Leeper? Oh, Brad's muted again.
Got the thumbs up.
Got the thumbs up from Brad. Saul?
Aye.
And Shrod?
Aye.
So that motion carries. And when does all this move along down to the council, Karen?
So the intent is to get that on the next council meeting. All of these items, they'll have to be taken in the order that you took them on your agenda.
Great. Thank you very much. So that concludes our regular business for tonight. And is there any commission updates or anything you can add to our future meetings, Karen?
Yeah, I don't have an update on with regard to the Ms. Saul's question about the in-person meetings. City still reviewing that and just taking into account what's happening in Blackhawk County and at City Hall, and so that is to be determined, I guess, for the next meeting.
Great, thank you. If there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned, and thank everybody for their patience tonight. See you.